NXT Halloween Havoc is in the books, and it says a lot about this new era of the black and silver brand. Namely, their women's division is absolutely embarrassingly loaded. Obafemi got screwed over once again by Tony D. Ridge Holland is the new big baddie for Trick Willie. And hot young superstar Bully Ray made his NXT debut. This is the WrestleJuice rundown of Halloween Havoc. Hey friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to the channel. So as some of you may or may not know, myself and NXT have a bit of a contentious relationship. It's a one-sided contentious relationship because NXT probably doesn't even know that I exist. If you guys pay attention to the Going In Raw podcast, I'm not the biggest fan of the NXT weekly product. I don't know what it is. At first I thought it was just sort of the presentation, but I get more of the feeling now that they've actually changed up their presentation a little bit. That has more to do with like the stories involved in NXT. None of them come off as like all that compelling to me. And I feel like with the exception of the women's division, which is absolutely loaded, they haven't done a great job of building up kind of main event caliber players. And I think that was on full display tonight in the main event segment after the main event match on NXT Halloween Havoc. Overall, the premium live events for Halloween Havoc are a lot of fun. I enjoyed tonight's show. There were some really, really good matches. So we're going to talk about each of the matches as we go along. This is going to be one of them rambly-bambly reviews. But hey, listen, for the people out there who say, oh, Steve, why don't you just stop reviewing NXT on Going In Raw because you don't like it? Well, guess what? I'm doing a whole solo-ass review here on this channel of it, so you should be grateful for that because chances are, because like Larson and I don't do a podcast on Monday, Tuesday's the Raw review, so I imagine we'll give you our brief thoughts about NXT Halloween Havoc, or maybe we'll wait till Thursday to do the podcast length review buried in the AEW NXT review. I'm already getting myself in trouble on this NXT review. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about, first up, Tony D'Angelo versus Obafemi. Of course, Tony D'Angelo won the North American Championship from Obafemi by fluke. After all this time that Obafemi, I think he's like the longest reigning North American champion at this point, he goes for a choke slam on Tony D, and Tony D somehow flips over him and wins the North American title after being afraid of Obafemi. Well, now, tonight at Halloween Havoc, they entered into a tables, ladders, and scares match. It kind of took like, remember that scene in the Avengers Endgame when all the Avengers had to come together to like beat Thanos, however you pronounce it. I got in trouble last time because I pronounced it Thanos. Listen, I bought the goddamn Infinity Gauntlet miniseries back in 1990 or 1991 when it originally came out. Do you know who drew that particular series? I do. It's George Perez. Do you know who replaced George Perez later on in the series when George Perez couldn't continue on? It was Ron Lim. I bet you didn't know that. You'd be telling me how to pronounce Thanos. I can pronounce it any way I want to. Anyways, that was a total tangent. They had like that scene in the end game. You can either take the last one or the one that happened more closer to the beginning when they chopped his head off and Thanos was all like, you know, gardening and stuff, and the Avengers come in and they beat him up. That's what this felt like. Like, I get it. I know the Avengers are like the good guys, but like Obafemi's not like, you know, erasing half the universe. He's just a guy who lost his title by a fluke and he wanted a rematch. How does that make him the bad guy here? Tony D. Listen, this is crazy because they started this whole program with Tony D. He's like, I'm afraid, all right? Because they're doing the Rocky Balboa thing, the Rocky 3 thing. They're just doing that story where he goes to Apollo. He's like, I'm afraid, Apollo. I don't want to do it. When it comes to Mr. T. And so that was Tony D. But Rocky didn't get like everybody in his camp to beat up on Apollo Creed together. They didn't do that in Rocky 3. No, Tony D'Angelo, he should have found the gumption to beat Obafemi clean on his own. I get the idea that you want to protect Obafemi. He's a big deal and everything. But like, he lost by fluke, and now he's losing by taking everybody's move before he gets slammed down onto like a chair or whatever it was, whatever the finish was. So I don't know. I don't necessarily, here's the bottom line. I was going to say, I don't think this does much for Tony D, and I don't really think it does a whole hell of a lot for Obafemi, but the bottom line is the match was a lot of fun. The actual TL Scares match was a ton of fun, and when you're in a match that's really, really cool, it elevates everybody involved. So mission accomplished, This is going to be a memorable match. Everybody's going to look back on this and be like, oh, remember this Tony D match? This was good. Remember this Obafemi match? This was really good. But when you actually think about it, Tony D is supposed to be the good guy here. Shouldn't he like have an opportunity here to use the tables, ladders, and scares against Obafemi as that's his advantage? He doesn't need his entire family coming in and helping him to beat Obafemi. I get the idea. You want to make Obafemi look strong. But for Christ's sake, Tony D is a good guy champion. Should he need everybody to beat this guy? Or should he just dig down deep like Rocky Balboa did after Mickey died? That was traumatic as a kid. I'll tell you what, man. There were some movies back in the day they let us as kids watch, like Rocky 3, Rocky 4 for that matter. Boy, Apollo getting killed by Ivan Drago. Holy shit! If he dies, he dies. This is just going to be Tangent City, anyways. So Tony D'Angelo kept his title by cheating. Julia and Stephanie Vaquer versus Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade. This is phenomenal. This is great stuff. This is awesome stuff. NXT has got the best women's division in wrestling. That's my belief right now. Obviously, I don't watch Stardom. Their entire company is a women's division. That's probably awesome stuff, right? But I don't watch that because I just don't have time for it. But in terms of the wrestling that I do watch, between AEW, WWE, and this, it's absolutely amazing. And when they bring in stars like Stephanie Vaquer and Julia, and then you add it to the stars that they're already building, and we'll talk about some of them a little bit later, you got yourself just an embarrassment of riches. It's really great stuff. This match is awesome. Stephanie Vaquer ended up pinning Roxanne Perez, which you would think means, I wonder if Stephanie's going to win that title off Roxanne. I don't know that's going to be the case. They got three legitimate contenders, and I wonder if it's even going to be any of them. Because you got, what's her name? Zarya, formerly known as Delta. But she seems to be targeting all the titles at this point. You got Stephanie and you got Julia, and you can't discount the idea of Cora Jade turning on Roxanne as well. Plus, you got all sorts of people there, and they might be signing more. I don't know. So, just an absolute embarrassment of riches there in NXT in the women's division. The match is phenomenal. I'd check it out if you're not going to check out anything else on this premium live event, which let me take a look here. I'll be honest, the first two matches were the best matches of the night. So, like, you could just watch those and then, like, move on with your day. But, if you're a fan of NXT, you're probably going to watch the whole thing. Speaking of which, Stone Cold Ridge Holland defeated Andre Chase in an ambulance match. Ambulance matches are usually fun. They probably should leave them alone for a little while. What was the last one? I think the last one was, who was it? What's his face? Damon Kemp versus, I don't freaking remember who it was. But, it was the Creed dude. It was Julius Creed. That's right. I mean, it's silly. It's all a bunch of silliness. You stuff somebody in an ambulance. And then you win. And there's always the thing where you put somebody in an ambulance and you try to close the door because that's what you got to do to win. You try to close the door and they go, they open it up and they like crawl out, right? Andre Chase is wearing the Freddy Krueger Chase U variant shirt, which is cool. I get it. They're trying to make Ridge Holland into a big heavy, right? They're trying to make him into a big bad guy. And I can appreciate that. I really could. Seems like they might be taking a different direction with him if the end of the show is to be believed. But they're trying to make him into Trick Williams' next big bad opponent because they haven't really spent much time making big bad guys outside of Obafemi, but it's too soon for Obafemi. So that's not going to happen. So they got Ridge Holland in the meantime. I like Ridge Holland enough. He's got a really killer theme song. But some guys, you got to put in overtime in order to get them to a status where I don't simply think of them as the dude who's like the third henchman in Sheamus's group. And I don't know that I'm there with Ridge Holland yet. I just don't. I don't. The match was cool. The match was a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. But presenting Ridge Holland in a way that he's going to be like, and he's not going to be main eventing like a premium live event. It's going to be like whatever the next special episode of NXT is not the 20th, not the ECW one. That's coming up like, I think next week or something like that. But, or this one, maybe this week. I don't know when it is. In any event, yeah, Ridge Holland, I mean, he won this match. He should have won this match. Like, they're obviously been trying to build him up to be the thing. It's just, here's the thing. NXT going to the silver and black sort of new era on the CW thing, in my opinion, really was sort of a signal of a change that they want to emulate more of what Triple H was doing pre 2.0. You gotta figure, man. You gotta figure this guy had his precious gold and black and gold brand ripped away from him by Vince McMahon. They threw a bunch of Nickelodeon-esque color vomit on the screen, had HBK run things, and he's done a really good job. They've had him, so you know the guy wants to bring it back. If for no other reason than despite Vince McMahon, he wants the black and gold version of NXT to come back. And I think he sees this silver and black rebrand as a way to do it. And I'm sure him and HBK are probably on the same page. So they're going to be shifting to, and it wouldn't shock me in 2025 for the takeover branding to return. I'm almost positive that's going to happen. Yeah, maybe they'll continue to do like, you know, takeover, Halloween Havoc, takeover, Bound for Glory. No, that's a different thing. Takeover, whatever. I think the takeover branding is going to come back because I think they're trying to shift to wrestling. You know, like, hey, let's put on as many 5-star matches as we possibly can. And to a degree with these premium live events, they've been able to do that. But I think that's going to be the focus. You don't bring in names like Julia if you're not planning on trying to become the wrestling brand of WWE again. I really believe that's going to be in the plans. That's going to be something they're focusing on. I don't know that Ridge Holland is that guy. I don't know that Ridge Holland can ever be that guy. Maybe, hey, prove me wrong, and maybe they're not going to expect that of Ridge Holland. Maybe they're going to put him with Ethan Page as a tag team. They're going to do their thing in NXT. Maybe they'll take the tag team titles off of Fraxium. Where were they tonight, by the way? And then they'll go to main roster. I kind of don't like that as a tag team, but hey, maybe they'll prove me wrong on that as well. I don't know. But in any event, yeah, Ridge Holland won that match. He should have won that match, and good on him. Hopefully, they're able to change my mind on Ridge Holland. You know, maybe he's a nice guy. Who knows? Anyways, let's talk about the Women's North American Championship. By the way, why does main roster not have a women's mid-card titles yet? We've been waiting for months and months and months for that shit now, ever since it was like rumored, and it still hasn't happened. It needs to happen, and it needs to happen soon because NXT is proving that mid-card women's titles are pretty cool. So Fallon Henley, this is actually really clever. You got the Fatal Influence. There's 3 of them, and it's like, oh, who's going to fight Kalani Jordan for that North American title? And so they're like, we'll do all 3 of them because we're doing a gauntlet match because they got to choose what the match was. And so Fallon Henley was last line for the gauntlet match. So Kalani Jordan had to go through 2 other people before getting to Fallon Henley, and they still had to cheat for Kalani Jordan to lose that North American Championship. So it keeps Kalani Jordan looking pretty strong. I think her reign as North American Champion will be fondly remembered. And then afterwards, and you know what? Hats off to Fallon Henley. She's been there for a while. I wasn't like huge on her character when she was simply nice bartender person or bar owner or whatever it was before when she was with them other dudes, Briggs and Jensen. But she's really come into her own as a bad guy along with Fatal Influence. I feel like I've got a hair right here. And good on her, man. She's been putting in the work. She's been doing this for a long time. She probably debuted 3 years ago when the 2.0 thing started. I think she did debut back then. And good on her. She won that North American Championship. Well-deserved from a performer standpoint. And it seems like formerly known as Delta is going to be coming after that North American title, or maybe she's coming after the main title. I don't know. She definitely left her imprint. They got all those great little vignettes of hers seemingly made with like Unreal Engine or something like that. I don't know. It looks really fancy. She looks like a video game character. She looks like $1 million. It's going to be interesting to see how they present her from like a character standpoint. Is she going to talk? Is she going to grunt? Is she going to be silent? What's the deal with that? But yeah, I'm looking forward to her debut match whenever that's going to take place. Should be some good stuff, but I like the idea that there is this looming threat in NXT, and her name is Zarya. So that's pretty neat. Let's move on to the main event, because, oh boy, fun match. Look, Fun match, doubles playground stuff. It's good stuff. Ethan Page, as he stated in his promo on that Go Home episode of NXT, in his 17 long years of being a wrestler, he's seen and done it all. And he had lots of, great matches along the way. And so this was sort of up his alley. He can deliver in the ring. He can do that. I still think that all ego Ethan Page is more suited for main roster. So I'd love to see him just sort of go there. But it seems like in the meantime, he's going to be teaming up with Ridge Holland. I don't know if this is going to be a long-term thing, a temporary alliance. Is this going to be a way that they can turn Ethan Page face? Perhaps that's a possibility as well. I just think that guy's got SmackDown written all over him. And if SmackDown's going to go to 3 hours at the beginning of the new year, I could see him being part of that. Or at the very least being part of the next draft after WrestleMania, if that's going to be the case. But yeah, he lost obviously to Trick Williams. He was going to bash him with some stairs, and instead Trick Williams gave him a big low blow and then hit him with a trick shot. By the way, Trick Williams needs a new finisher. The running knee thing just doesn't. Man, there are certain moves in wrestling where it's like, I don't really buy it. But I know it's a big time move, so I'll buy into it. The Rainmaker comes to mind. Hogan's leg drop comes to mind. A couple others where it's like, that's not really it. The trick shot is like top of the list of those. Because every single time, he just sort of floats up in the air and gives a casual knee strike to a guy's head. And that's supposed to be a finishing move. I'm not a fan of it. I think Trick Williams is tremendous. I think he's great. That being said, yeah, somebody get that guy a new finishing move, man. Anything else, honestly. Anything else. Stunner. Power bomb. I don't know. Something good. In any event, match was cool and everything, but then afterwards, you got Trick in there, and then Ridge Holland comes out of nowhere and starts beating up on Trick Williams. Okay, next title contender. I get it. That's fine. That's good. They're making Ridge into a guy, right? Ethan Page helps them out. They're a team. And so then they're saved by young, hot, up-and-coming superstar Bully Ray. Bully Ray, who was there with the other busted open guy. To do like the pre-show, the during the show stuff, and Ridge Holland yells at him. So he gets in there and he makes the save for Trick. They could have used anybody. They could have used anybody else, man. They could have used, dude, they got Javon Evans right there. They've got Javon Evans right there. I know he's got a thing with Cedric and they're going for the tag titles, I think, with Fraxium or whatever's going on. But you got that. Javon Evans is going to be huge. He's going to be a big time deal. Bully Ray. And I know, dude, I get it. Because Dawn Marie, I think, is going to be, not Francine, Dawn Marie is going to be like the special guest ref for some match that Ava set up. I forget what the match is. But it's because they're good. They're doing the NXT from the 2300 arena, the ECW arena there in Philly. So Bully Ray shows up. And look, Bully Ray, as far as I know, probably had a match on Impact last week. I don't know. I know that he has wrestled as recently as pretty recent. So for him, so it makes sense. It makes sense for him to show up and to do his thing there at the ECW themed NXT. Look, I'm looking forward to it. I am looking forward to it. I expect to see some stars of ECW. Tommy Dreamer will be there. Let's get the franchise. Shane Douglas there, perhaps. Although I don't think HBK and Triple H want anything to do with that guy. Apparently, the Clique did not get along with Shane Douglas. And on top of that, Triple H ripped off a bunch of Shane Douglas' shit. So I don't think they're going to get on the same page. In any event, Taz can't go there either. I don't know. RVD, I think he just signed like a nostalgia deal with the WWE Legends contract, whatever they call it. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to that episode. So, but is that going to be a match? Bully Ray and Trick Williams versus the other two dudes, Ridge and Ethan Page? It's goofy as hell, but I mean, that could be fun. I mean, Bully can still go, so good for him. It just does illustrate that NXT needs to build up other like main event level guys. And I don't know if it's a problem where it's like, man, if I build these people up, they're going to get called up, so then I'm going to start from scratch. But it's like, you got to find ways to build these names, man. Trick has nobody. When you have to pull Ridge Holland out of the when you got to build up Ridge Holland to be a main event player, You got to be doing better. You got to be doing better. HBK is like obsessed with the women's division. He loves that women's division, and he is spending so much. It's just like Triple H spending so much time on the bloodline and letting other things fall away. HBK is that with the women's division. It's a great women's division. A lot of great talent there, man. But you gotta devote some of that creative energy to building up other divisions. No tag team title match on this show. Where's Fraxium? They had like a little bit on the thing. Anyways, they're falling apart. Anyways, I've gone on too long about NXT. Let me know what you guys thought about Halloween Havoc in the comments below. I know it's rare. I only talk about NXT on this channel for good reason. We have a contentious relationship, but I'm doing it today. So there you go. We'll see you guys around.